Thanks for joining us this afternoon. This morning we heard from Simon about a number of the challenges faced by modern warehouses in the omni-channel world. And he's also touched on a kind of general approach to projects around managing significant changes in your warehouse operations. This session's slightly different in that we're going to focus on some of the specific solutions available to you to overcome some of the challenges highlighted. So, as an alternative to just listening to me drone on about what you should and shouldn't do, and usually we do a train set in the afternoon session where we follow a number of the partners' bits of kit around the site. Slightly different, whereby I'll be introducing some of our partners who have joined us over here, and they'll talk through some of their insights into these challenges. And I think this is trying to make it an interactive session, so feel free to ask questions throughout. Excuse me. Are we all right? I'll just not move. That better? So yeah, feel free to ask questions throughout. We'll also have time at the end to take questions. So without much further ado, the first area is this kind of requirement for rubber walls, and how do we deal with the ever increasing demands of customers for any product, anytime, anywhere. It's the range proliferation that Simon touched on, and the requirement for appropriate storage systems for these ranges. What we often find is clients will go to Google or another search engine, but Google normally, type in storage solutions and ring up the first couple of names to see at the top of the list. But what they're not clear on is what they're trying to achieve, nor are they aware of the data they have that's going to inform those decisions, so they get a solution that is fit for purpose. The fact is there's many suppliers out there, and selecting the right supplier who understands your business and designs a system that is fit for your business's proposition is key. So in our game, we talk to multiple suppliers, understand who can offer the right solution. As an example, we're joined by Mark Cummings today from Dexian, who's going to talk to you about some of the options available in storage systems and racking selection. Mark.
Thanks, John. Afternoon to you all. So, the first question to ask is, what is your dream warehouse? And how will it work for you? Is it one storage system, or is it a mix of many? Is it a manual, semi-automated, or fully automated system? Is it adaptable for changing market needs? And does it reduce cost and improve efficiency? There are storage systems available in the marketplace, but then there are storage solutions. They equate to the same hardware, but the results are dramatically different. To start the journey towards your dream warehouse, there are a number of discussions that need to take place. Does your storage provider understand your operation? Are they aware how your operation currently works? Do they know of existing issues or pinch points that need to be discussed? Are they aware of all SKUs being stored and their min-max strategies? Do they understand your order information, number of orders per day, and number of order lines per order? Have they discussed movements in and out per hour? And a question to the audience is, do you know your ABC products, your fast, your medium, and your slow movers? And you could take it to the next stage and make it your double A's, your fast movers, and your high value items. Have you broken it down so you understand that part of your business? A proficient storage provider can determine the best solution for you. They can also confidently assess if a manual operation will suffice or if you require some form of automation. Designs can be simulated so you can actually see your solution before it's installed real time. And then you can look to the future to check that it services your requirements later down the line as your business may change. The warehouse plays a key role in your supply chain, and the wrong solution will cost you money. To relay the difference between a storage system and a storage solution, we have simulated two different storage systems running side by side. Both systems are designed to store small or medium-sized products, but install the wrong system and you'll experience inefficiencies and daily challenges. The solution on the left is a conventional multi-tier shelving system, and on the right we have vertical lift machines. Both are ideal for picking operations to service customer orders. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. So when we simulate these two systems, it provides us with data that determines which solution best fits your business based on the information gathered. As a guide, a vertical lift storage solution can achieve pick rates of 120 picks per hour by one picker. This can be improved further by incorporating proximity placement of product. For maximum pick rates of up to 360 picks per hour by one picker, our software can accommodate batch picking processes, which allows you to pick up to 20 orders at the same time, all managed and controlled by the machine's inbuilt warehouse management system. And the shelving solution that you see on the left achieves pick rates of 46 picks per hour by one picker. This solution can also be enhanced further by improved product placement of faster moving lines close to the consolidation area and slower moving lines on the mezzanine. By doing this, this can increase pick rates by up to 45%, and as it reduces travel distances substantially. Just from these two systems, we have demonstrated 5 potential solutions, all with differing pick speeds. There are many more that can be identified within these two systems, so we can match your operational requirements with the right solution for your business needs. On this second example, we have standard pallet racking on the left and a mobile racking system on the right. The wide aisle option is slightly quicker, as every pallet is accessible. It's also a more flexible system to deal with any hourly peaks that you might have, as the system can incorporate additional forklift trucks. But if your movements in-out per hour fit better with a mobile system, this solution can reduce your footprint by half. And the result of that is, if it's a new build, it will save substantial costs on construction and ongoing operational costs. And also on the mobile solution, if you deal in chilled or frozen products, the returns available on ongoing operating costs are substantial. So this is just a quick overview of a few of the systems in the marketplace today. Talk to us and all the other WTG members so you can understand more. But to conclude, to turn these systems into solutions, you need time to talk to your storage provider. You need to give them the remit and ask them to identify the solution, but more importantly, verify their proposal. We can do this by simulating real-time the actual proposed solution for you. There are many options available, not just the ones shown in the market, so we're sure to provide you with your dream warehouse. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We've not practiced this microphone handover, so I might have to pad a little bit at this next introduction. But earlier, Simon talked about the increasing demand for customization, and with the growth in online, this is particularly for the personalization of labels. As operators, we need to be able to do a number of things, specifically identify the items in the first instance, then link the labeling to order processing and the customer address, and then look at how we minimize the manual processing of that through a complete automatic processing of routing, customer-specific requirements, and proof of delivery. As we've touched on already, your customers, and therefore your requirements, need to be fully understood to enable you to provide the optimized solution for them. Today, we're joined by a WTG stalwart, who I'm sure we're all looking forward to hearing from, is Barry Day from Codeway, who's going to give us a bit of insight into how best to do this. Barry.
Oh, works. What do I press a button, do I? Oh. Me, many years ago when I had hair. This morning, I wondered where all the blood came from on the towel. And as usual, when you've got no hair, those of you unfortunate enough to be like me, you're always banging it. So, well. Dream warehouse. When I first heard this dream warehouse, I envisaged walking through a sort of roller shutter door. Who's that? And there would be lots of Lenny Hendrys lying on mattresses. Of course, some warehouses do hold lots of mattresses. I know from looking at the visitor list, we've got some people who are storing garments, some are bottles, some is food, some is ink. We've had all sorts, had various conversations with people. So everybody has got a different requirement, and no two are the same. But there's some common ground. And the common ground is identifying the product. If it's a mattress, it's a mattress. We need to identify it. If it's a garment, do we just say it's an orange T-shirt? Or do we have to know that it's short-sleeved, it's size whatever, 44, whatever, I know, large, medium, small. Lots of different information about that particular product. If it's food, knowing that it's a tub of butter is one thing, but that's probably not quite as important as knowing what's the expiry date for that particular product. In other industries, the important thing is a unique batch number. Batch number, we need to know the batch number. So everybody has different problems, and I'm sure you've got your own. But this, how do we identify it, is very important. And there are different ways you can do it. You could obviously have a label on there and it says orange T-shirt, fine. But then you've got to go on and to say short sleeve, size 44. And if we've got operators, have they got to read all this to identify it? Might not speak English or be able to read English. So there are some interesting technologies, some of which you're very familiar with now, for identifying products. Barcoding, most of us are used to. We go into Sainsbury's and we take it for granted now. Everything has got a barcode on it. The point is, if you can't identify it, how can you pick it and how can you get it to the customer? Sometimes, if we're lucky, the supplier would have put this identification on the product. There will be a barcode. It will say all this information in barcode form, which is great. That means that goods in, you can just go scan, 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 in. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Supplier doesn't do that. In which case, part of the goods in procedure unfortunately, is you have to produce your own identification label. This is something that we specialize in. If a product, let's say it's 1,000 washers, then obviously you're not going to stick an individual label on each washer, but what you do need to do is have a location code. So we now know that we've put 1,000 washers in a specific location, whether it's a Dexian picking system or whatever. And you'll notice on some of the racks at the back here, there are barcodes on the rack. So we've put these 1,000 widgets in this location. Scan, scan. There are some other technologies, and if I'd have thought about it, I'd have put more in about RFID, because I've been asked 2 or 3 times this morning, what is RFID? I'm not going to go into it in any great depth, other than to say, if you've got a dog and you've had your dog chipped, it's the same technology. And what we've got over here, for instance, are antennas, so that if something has an RFID identification on it, as it moves into warehouse or out of production into warehouse, it is automatically read. You don't need to employ a guy to stand there and scan it. It does it automatically. There's a lot more to it, and I won't bore you now. It's not what's in my presentation. What is in my presentation, as you can see there, is barcoding, because it's fairly cheap. Printing a barcode is fairly cheap. At the top are what I call linear barcodes, lines. That's what we see in Tesco's. There are lots of different sorts. If you are in an industry where one step back, one step forward is important, in other words, you know, everybody's using the technology for traceability and whatever, then there are standards, and different industries will point in that direction. There are only 2 alphanumeric codes in linear. One is code 39, or 3 of 9, and the other one is code 1 to 8. There's a reason for these names. Code 1 to 8, if you look at your laptop, there's 128 characters. So you can actually encode /# whatever. That's where the name comes from. But that's an alphanumeric barcode. So if you wanted to track things, and it's purely an internal system, code 1 to 8 is a very good one to go for. But there are other codes. Beneath that, you'll see what I've called 2D stacked and multi-line. These were invented by the people who invented the laser scanners, because if you look, they are lots of barcodes, one on top of the other. So in actual fact, the laser goes, and in effect, it's reading lots of code. So the most popular is probably the one on the right. PDF stands for portable data file. But far better, and growing at a tremendous rate now, are matrix codes, 2D matrix, which you'll see at the bottom. Now, the most common one that you'll spot might be on a beer mat, it might be on the back of a van, it might be on a big poster. And quite often, this is the marketing boys who are putting a web link. So you can go with your smartphone, you scan this, and it takes you to the site. Now, the potential for that is tremendous if you think about it. If you're blind, and you've got got the pills, you could then scan that, and the phone could talk to you and tell you the dosage and all the rest of it. So much potential, it's not true. But in industry, the one bottom right is the most popular, data matrix. You can cram a hell of a lot of information in a very tiny area. Data matrix is great for a number of reasons. You can mark metal, directly mark metal with it, circuit boards, it goes on and on, I won't bore you. The industries that do now and have for a long time commonly used it is motor industry, commonly used, aerospace, pharmaceutical. Now in the pharmaceutical area, because of fraudulent, I was talking last night to people about the amount of fraud in drugs. There's a regulation, EFPIA, if you're involved with that. Every individual pack of drugs has to have a unique number, because there's so much counterfeit drugs coming from China or wherever. The issue is not just how do you encode your pack of pills or whatever, but it's then the amount of data that's because if you have your pills here in England, it might have been come from China or wherever. And so you've now got the whole business of global data and the use of cloud. Waffling on, carry on. Right, where are we? Press a button. Enter. Right. Here's an example. Probably nobody here in this industry, but horticulture, an interesting little story. This is one of the few industries where, unfortunately, they can't label it till they sell it. So we put a seed in a pot, and we know it's going to grow into a chrysanthemum, but we can't label it till we sell it, because Mr. B&Q wants a B&Q price on it, and a B&Q watering instructions, and a B&Q barcode. If he goes to Homebase, he wants something different. If it goes, you know what I mean, it goes to the local garden centre, he wants something different. So we do systems where pickers pick all the pots, they put them on a conveyor belt, the pots come hurtling down, but how can we label it if we don't know what it is? Data matrix on the plant stick. So when they put the seed in the pot, they put the soil in, they put the plant stick in, we know this is going to grow into a Cinderella Bacopa salmon with eye, whatever the hell that is. So we know what it is. We've got a computer system with a B&Q order. They want one of those. So as it comes down the line, the scanner scans it, says, a Bacopa agifatha. Want one of those for B&Q. B&Q want it to price at £6.99. So we then print and apply a label and put it on the pot. So that's an example of how do we identify it to label it. Now, the other part is not just what it is, but where is it going? Because as we've heard this morning, you know, people are ordering to now and they want delivery tomorrow. Where's the name and address come from? You know, someone's got to get the flaming name and address on that damn label. Because we've still got a postman, you know, he's still got to know where to take the damn thing. So then we've got to pick it, but there's no name and address. Where's that coming from? Now, you can pick it in various ways. You could use a voice terminal. This thing could say, go over there and pick one of those. Fine, I've got it. It could be a handheld device. Scan that, pick it, fine. Or it could be picked by light. I think Mark's got some nice pick by light systems. So light comes, oh, I want one of them. So I've got it, but my address is 508 Norwich Road, Ipswich, IP1 6JS. That's got to get on that bloody product. How do I do it? One of the ways you can do it is the picker actually has a portable label printer. There are a number of makes, some better than others, but generally speaking, excellent devices which you can have on your belt, and it will print that name and address label for you. Obviously, that's got to be told what to print, but scanning the fact it was a Bacopa plant or whatever it is, and that Barry Day wants one, you can tie the two together and print the name and address label where it's got to go. So that's one way of doing it. But there are lots of others. Now this, if I click on here with a bit of luck, this is a movie. It's only short. This is QVC. Excuse me. Now what happens here, over here, a picker has come with the paperwork and put it on a conveyor belt and they put the jumper on top. If you ordered a jumper or a blouse or a TV or whatever it is. So now you've got an order with a barcode on it and the product's on the top. That huge roll, that 16-inch diameter, would you believe, because obviously they don't want downtime. So we've now got an order, we've got a barcode on it which relates to the main software, knows all about this. It knows it's a jumper. It knows it's destined for IP16JS, and it also knows it's going on lorry 77, or whatever, the route. We have a scanner, which is on the floor, and that looks through the conveyor, the split in the conveyor, so we capture that. When it then comes to the bagging machine, the jumper is in, well, we print the label with all that information. It's a jumper destined for diddly, diddly, diddly. We print that label, plonk it on the bag, and then the jumper gets inserted, and then what's not shown on that film is the clever bit, actually. Thereafter, on the conveyor, there's lots of scanners. And as it goes along, it says, right, that one needs to go to lorry 77. And it sends it to the right chute. And if there's any problem, there's obviously rejects and whatever in there. So that's QVC, just an example of project we've done. This is a far more simplistic little system. Mick takes the mickey out of this. This is Guernsey clematis, talking about plants before. It's this system I've got over here, actually. So what we've got is a label printer. Wait for it, technical term, plonker-donker. On the front here is a fan-assisted apply head. So what it does, again, if I click on that, it's only a short one. Oh, no, that was wrong. How do I go back, chaps? Up. Up. Oh, there we are. Got it. Right, sorry. Me and technology. Oh, no, done it again. That one. No. Oh, come on. That's it. Oh, there we go. So there's me Plonker-Donker working, look. Now, the trick there is that Guernsey clematis sell their clematis by mail order. So everybody gets the same thing. They get a bulb in a box. So it's dead easy, really. All the boxes are the same size. But the thing that's different is every label's different. Every label is a unique name and address. So all that's happening there, the pickers have put the boxes on the conveyor. We then link to the order processing file. So every label is different, and then they're just going in the mail bag, ready for dispatch. And I can show you that over there. We're using some nice software by Nice Label. So all the linking of these names and addresses to the label print is dead easy. So it's a standard thermal transfer printer with an apply head on top. Those systems, I could bore you for hours with different films of labels being put on the side, top, bottom, you name it, we do it. Next one. What's the next one? I have forgotten. Let's have a look. Oh, right. This is dead short. But what happens here, there's labels whistling through there, and that is a label being printed, again, at time of dispatch. It's what they call an ISBN barcode for the book industry, magazine industry. So you've got the unique barcode for the particular magazine, Hello Magazine or whatever it is, and then there's an addendum, which is the price addendum for that particular magazine. So that's being printed from you've got to start off with a plain label. Same product going out needs what I call a flash label. So this one, if you look, it says express delivery. That's just a pre-printed label. They've put it on the applicator. So we're printing one label here with a barcode on it. We're slapping another label. It could say 25% off. It could say whatever. That one's saying that. Now, technology is moving on at such a pace. I don't know if this is going to work because this one in the schedule, so I apologise. I'm going to press a button and see what happens here. Rather than pay to have labels ready-made, we've now got new technology coming in, which is inkjet print technology. If I press a couple of buttons, there we go. Right, while that's just waiting, I'll just show you. So now you could, instead of buying ready-made labels, you can personalize them. Every label can be different. And so again, you could do that on demand. So as John was saying, I think it was earlier on, customizing for the customer, you can now put the customer's logo on, anything they want, your logo, these barcodes, and all the rest of it. And I don't know if you can see that over there, but here we go. Give you an idea of speed. Couldn't have shown you this a year ago. It didn't exist a year ago. How do you stop it? But look at the speed and the quality. The other thing that's happening now is there's so much legislation. People have got to cram so much information onto a label. They can't print, small enough. But this technology is 1600 DPI. And as Mark says, how the bloody hell do you stop it? It'll be finished in a minute. I hope that, I think that's one of the most impressive things going in new technology. There's a lot of it. Photographic, dry straight away. So there's an awful lot of technology now available to do these things. So if I go back to nearly my last slide, that barcode label that you saw being printed and applied, and that flash label, this is the complete line. It's part of DHL, Hicks. Hopper feed, magazines going in. That first machine is print and apply the barcode lock. Second machine is the flash, what I call the flash labeler. Books being collated, again, ready for dispatch. So whether it's a moderate project, a few products going out, something like that might suffice. If you want something sophisticated, then we've got it, sort of thing. So Codeway, excuse me, we specialize in, identifying things, whether it's a pallet, an item, a case, you name it, tracking that thing, and it could be, I say, global, worldwide these days, and the control. All of this has to be linked to software, which one of my colleagues are going to talk about a little bit later. But meanwhile, thank you.
Thank you, Barry. That's the third time I've seen that presentation, and it's the third different version of that presentation. So, and the labelling machine was a added bonus. So thanks for that. So next up, I want to talk about automation, and the key here, I've put there data, and more data, and this is, Simon referenced the classic case of Sainsbury's about 10 years ago when it went horribly wrong. And it's an extreme example that gets rolled out now and then, but it's by no means an isolated case of automation going bad. It's just the degree it can go bad too. I think fundamentally there's some basic lessons to take on board when implementing an automated solution. And that top one there, which I just referred to, data, and more data. The more you have, the easier it is to design a system that suits your business. You'll not believe the number of clients who just do not understand how to extract that data out of their systems. So before you do anything, you need to start building that data. And alongside that, it's understanding your end-to-end processes. Again, it seems basic, but you'd be surprised how often businesses do not understand the activities that are inherent in their operations. And vitally, you've really got to understand, why are we doing this? Why are we implementing automation? What are the business drivers? Do we want more space? Do we want to improve productivity? I didn't get a face mic, and I've ended up with this duff bit of equipment. Or are we looking to improve customer service levels? So to go to someone with a decent bit of kit, I'll hand you over now to Mick Priestley from Knapp, who'll give you a bit more of an insight into these solutions.
Okay then. Well, thanks very much for all you guys sticking at it to the bitter end. And I tend to follow Barry at presentations, and the only thing it does is make you feel totally inadequate. And some of the things he comes out with totally amaze me. And in all my years, which are many, I have never heard the phrase Guernsey clematis, which I thought he said something else yesterday, but it will stick in my mind. So the dream warehouse, it's almost a contradiction. A warehouse, a dream, come on. It's not something that you think about all your life, and not something the general public think about, warehouse. We will talk about how to get to these right solutions. What do we do? What processes do we need to take? And discussion and talking to people like yourselves are absolutely vital. But I will warn you that be very careful who you do talk to about your dream warehouse. Before I came here yesterday, because believe it or not, this is rehearsed as well. And we was here yesterday rehearsing. My wife, I don't know why, she doesn't usually ask, but she asked me where I was going for 2 days. And I said I was going to talk about a dream warehouse with a group of people, thinking she was interested. She just turned around and said, get a life. And that was it. But she'll be the first one to complain if her shoes don't turn up tomorrow when we go away on holiday this week. It'll be my fault, probably. So the dream warehouse, what do we need to look at? We've talked already about challenges, and some of these challenges have been highlighted, and I'm sure all you individuals would probably look at some of these and think, yeah, I've come across that. I need that in my warehouse. Whether it's a storage facility, an automated system, a picking system, doesn't really matter. These will all come in because, whatever you put in next week, somebody's going to come along next year and said, okay, I want to change this a little. We need more products. The products are different sizes, so we need this to be modular and expandable. Also, when you're spending this money, no doubt your bosses, your accountants, anyone that's concerned will say, okay, how much labour are we going to reduce? We've automated the warehouse, we've put in a conveyor, we've bought a new fork truck. What's it going to save me? Because there's a return on everything. When we put in these new processes as well, and you've seen equipment here, we've seen the stretch wrapper, for example. These things have got to be ergonomically correct. We don't want to make, say, a bad situation in a warehouse worse by introducing automation. Monday, I don't know if any of you like Ferrero Rocher. I was at their warehouse with dispatches in the UK. Ferrero Rocher comes into the UK, it's made in Eastern Europe. It comes in on Euro pallets. There are 150,000 of those pallets a year comes into the UK. Over the next 10 years, they're hoping to get to 400,000. Now, a lot of you guys that's got warehouses would probably not be able to store the Euro pallet. So every one of those pallets, manually, the boxes are taken off the Euro, placed on to a check pallet. They're currently doing that manually. They tell me it's 15 minutes a pallet. I watched 2 guys for 25 minutes, and they still haven't finished. And they have to get through, current load is 150,000 pallets a year. So we've got to put the right equipment in. Flexibility. Going back to that, for example, you can imagine seasonal fluctuations, and again, you guys will have probably seen the same, where Christmas periods, the notorious Black Friday, Easter, school holidays, all produce fluctuations in the warehouse. All want the goods quicker. Compatible with different business channels. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, again, go to my dearly beloved wife. She will go to the shop, but she will then order online. The goods can be delivered direct to her, or they can be delivered to the shop where she will collect. Click and collect is now, it's an increasing part of our lives now. You order the things, you go to the local shop. And above all, whatever we introduce must be safe. It must be safe. There is no shortcuts there. Safety is key to it all. So choices, and again, you'll all have different warehouses, I'm sure, and you probably recognise some of the terminology. The APR racking, adjustable pallet racking, is probably the most common that you will see. But even in that, there are different sizes, different bays, different duty of rack. So within each category, there are different items. Drive-in racking, narrow aisle, live storage, all these could apply to you guys. Maybe only one applies. Once I've got it on the rack and I want to take it out, how am I going to transport it? Do I use the forklift truck? Am I going to use ASRS, automated storage retrieval systems? Do we use shuttle cars? Again, lots of different ways to move it. When we start transporting the packages towards Barry's barcode machines, what type of conveyor are we going to use? Is it a belt? Is it a roller? Do we need zero line pressure? By that I mean the packages don't come in direct contact, might be breakable. Going back to my dear friends at Ferrero Rocher, one of the simplest solutions was, well, we'll just invert your pallets. No, you won't. We've spent millions on our branding and marketing. That little white piece of paper on top of that chocolate stays there. Don't care how many man hours it takes, you do not tip their boxes. Picking, what we're going to pick it from. Standard shelving, long span, carton live storage, voice pick, vision pick. These are all the choices that you guys have to make. And obviously, in discussion with various people. Sortation, tilt tray, shoes, cross belts, Bombay sorters. So many different elements. And if we did a multiple factor of all those items there, you can see how many different combinations there are as well. Get any of them wrong, and it will screw up your operation. There's no doubt about that. We've heard of the Sainsbury's situation. There are other warehouses, and I bet you guys could tell me of plenty of storage facilities or systems where things are not quite right. I've put a ton pallet on a 500 kilogram beam. I've put a 600 tote on a 400 wide conveyor. It happens. Then we've got the software. again, which is key. You'll have control systems in your own businesses. You maybe have a warehouse management system that has to interact with that particular piece of equipment. So to make sure that you've got the right solution, it is all about talking. The only way the implementation of systems is often, the simplest part of the project. Getting to that point is the most difficult. You guys understand your businesses better than we do. We need to know everything about your business. Is it growing? Are you going to change product lines? Do you operate shift patterns? Do you want to get rid of labour? Etc., etc. And all that information from you guys will help us and many people that you see at WTG make those right choices for you. Wrong decisions, nightmare, absolute nightmare. And, once you've put a warehouse in, kind of cost a lot of money. You put the wrong rack, the wrong conveyor, etc. Nobody else wants it. The amount of companies we speak to in automation, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, we want to change that system. We want to change the system. We're going to get rid of the old one. Okay? Will you buy it back? Yeah? I'll give you $5,000. Yeah, but we paid $3 million. So what? It's no use to us. It's no use to anyone else. It's bespoke to you. So once you've bought it, and you find, I don't really like this. It's not like the wife's shoes. She'll stick them on eBay in about 3 weeks because she don't bloody like them. You might get a few quid back. You ain't going to get nothing back with your system. So as well as being a nightmare for operation, it's a nightmare financially. But right decision, dream warehouse. We look at this particular example, and there are many more, but what I'd like to indicate there is, how many people are there? Yeah. That's controlling that particular warehouse. There is 12,000 packages a day goes out of there. And the numbers of people on site are 32. So, as well as operating safely, can be cost effective, it can make you money. Why would you put a dream warehouse in if it wasn't going to do those things for you? Keep your money. Well, thanks very much, and hope you've enjoyed what you've heard today, and hand you back to John.
Thanks, Mick. It's interesting on one of Mick's slides there. There was a lot of terminology and acronyms, and as an industry, we love acronyms. But as experts, we go out and tell our customers all about them, and they often sit there nodding. They have no idea what it means. So I think you've got to ask the question to understand what we're getting at there, because half of the stuff he was talking about, I'll call it something different, and you'll call it something different too. So it's really getting underneath the skin of what's on offer to understand what works for you. Anyway, the final area we're going to talk about today is WMS. And we've seen so many clients, and Simon alluded to one of them earlier, who had a bad experience when running a WMS. In particular, it tends to happen when they're implementing the WMS. And typically this is as a result of not understanding what it is they want, and therefore not understanding what they end up with. They don't involve the wider business, and they don't seem to understand that the WMS it needs to fit as part of the broader business systems and processes. And finally, Simon touched on it. I think David will touch on it as well. Is that this false economy of trying to minimize cost by minimizing testing and training? It's just the biggest mistake you can potentially make when rolling out a WMS. So if you're looking at the specification, selection, and implementation of a WMS, you've got to understand it'll take a significant amount of planning, a significant amount of time, and probably a significant level of investment. The return on which can be well worth it, but only if you do it properly. So our final partner today is David Derbyshire from Chess, who's going to explore some of those issues further. David.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm just going to briefly discuss warehouse management systems, and also, probably more specifically, the implementation of those systems and what's involved in that. Firstly, just looking at the diagram above, just to overview exactly where the warehouse management system is going to be involved in managing stock. Typically, we're going to be managing stock as part of the receipt, maybe even before, in terms of advanced shipping notification of stock coming in. We're going to be controlling where it goes in the warehouse via a put away. We may be moving it in the warehouse. We certainly probably be doing replens down to pick faces. We'll be doing some order processing, so we'll receive orders in, we'll plan those to either loads or waves, we'll pick those, and we'll tell you where best to pick that stock from in the warehouse. We may do some post-pick handling, packing desk, labels, dispatch notes, and we'll marshal and we'll dispatch the stock from the warehouse. We'll control all that. Maybe even we'll control the delivery to the end user in terms of some kind of POD. So we're following and we're managing stock from the moment it hits the warehouse right the way through to the moment it gets to the consumer. And why are we doing that? Well, we're looking to achieve typically three main benefits: improved accuracy, improved productivity, and better traceability. But what I really want to talk about is what's involved in getting those benefits out of the system. What do we need to consider when we're looking at implementing warehouse management system in our operation? Well, firstly, changes to existing processes. Now, that might be something simple, like moving to what I would describe as a batch type environment, where maybe, as an example, a put away list would have 20 pallets to put away into the locations. I'd go away with that list, I'd do all the work, I'd put all those pallets away, and then I'd come back and say, right, what do you want me to do next? Warehouse management systems will actually treat each individual pallet put away on that list as a separate task, and I'll be told to do that task and not be given the next task until I said I've completed the previous task. But changes could be more extensive. They could be changes to picking processes to get that efficiency that we're looking to achieve. So we could have multiple people picking parts of the same order because that's more efficient. Or we could be looking at single people picking multiple orders at the same time to get those types of efficiencies. But the thing to take away is that there will be changes to those processes, and we need to adapt to those changes. We also need probably to adopt new technology. You'll have seen here today technology in the form of RF handheld barcode scanners, voice picking units, RFID scanners that Barry touched on before. You may be linking to automated or semi-automated equipment. And what we really need to do is understand the technology, realize what the benefits of each of those types of technology are, and make sure we apply them to the right area of the warehouse. So it's about making sure that it's the appropriate use of that technology, not just using technology for technology's sake. And then we have to learn how to use it and learn how to get the best out of it. The WMS is also going to impose a more disciplined approach to work. I mentioned before that it's a task-based approach. So a task will tell me to go to a location. I'll then have to say to the system, yes, I'm at that location. It'll then say, right, pick up this stock. I'll have to say to the system, right, I've got that stock, identify the right stock. It'll then say, move it to that location. And I have to move it to that location and confirm to the system that I've moved it to that location. And if there's any exception, if I can't do any of that for whatever reason, I've got to report to the system that I can't do it and give the reason for that. And no longer can I just leave it in the nearest empty location because that's the most convenient thing to do at the time. So we are going to impose a more disciplined approach to what happens in the warehouse. Also, an appreciation of the bigger picture. As I mentioned, the WMS is a task-based system, so it's going to be issuing tasks out based on what's best for the operation at that moment in time. Somebody requests a task, rather than what's best for an individual. So I might be doing some put away, and then I might get switched to do a replen because that's needed for a pick. I then may have to do a stock movement, and then I might do a stock check before I get moved back onto my put away tasks. And it's that appreciation that the system is doing what's in the best interest of the operation as a whole, rather than what's in the best interest of any one individual. Also, we've got to consider that it's got to fit in with other systems in the business. They may be internal systems like your business system. We're going to receive purchase order information, sales order information, so we can process that in the WMS. We've got to send out information back to those business systems. It may be a web portal where we're receiving web orders that we need to pick in the warehouse. It might be carrier systems. It might be third-party transport systems where we've got to send information relating to dispatches. All those interfaces need to be clearly defined and developed as part of this process. It's also critical to the supply chain. I think that goes without saying. I mean, the whole purpose of the WMS is to get the right stock to the right person at the right time. And if the WMS is not functioning correctly or not functioning at all, then that's going to get compromised. And that obviously is going to affect customer service and maybe lost trade. It's also different. We've all used computer systems. We've all grown up using computer systems. I'd like to think that most of those are quite different to a WMS in that I would call those data processing systems. We put data into them. We may mess around with it a bit. We maybe change its status, and then we'll just get data back out of it. Whereas a warehouse management system, we're trying to control real events done by real people in real time. And that's quite difficult. It's also different. But the key to success of a WMS is doing that well. So we're at a stage now where we're perhaps considering implementing a WMS. What are the key things to think about? Planning is vital. Involve everyone. Obviously, you're going to involve the warehouse staff directly, but also anybody who's directly or indirectly involved. So that could be the customer services team. It could be your transport planning department. It might be your suppliers. It should definitely be your customers. Make sure everyone understands what you're trying to do when you're implementing a WMS and why you're doing it. Design is the key. You're going to look at your existing processes. You're going to review them. You're going to refine them to match the WMS. There may be some that become redundant as a result of putting the WMS in, so you'll need to remove those. But it's also an opportunity to innovate. If you want to increase your efficiencies, then you may look at the picking routines, picking processes, and give you a chance to innovate in those areas. Or you may want to increase accuracy by bringing in some kind of perpetual inventory process. Training is essential. The last thing you want to happen is get to a go-live situation and not be fully confident that you know how the system works or all aspects of the system. What we would recommend is a train-the-trainer approach where you would nominate 3 or 4 key users and get them trained on the system so they know it inside out, and then they can disseminate the knowledge to the rest of the operation. They can also be the go-to guys during the go-live period for the initial questions on the system. But bear in mind, when you're looking at training in this type of system, you're probably talking of a period of 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks. And these are key people to the business, and you've got to plan for them to be out of the business for that length of time. Testing is mandatory. I think it's something that Simon mentioned earlier this morning. When you get the WMS, it will have been fully tested by your WMS provider. But that can only be tested in a desktop environment, in a theoretical environment. And if you remember what I said earlier, the difference between a WMS and most other systems is it's controlling real events in real time by real people. So we need to test it using real people, doing real events in real time. So there's a lot to consider. I've only just scratched the surface of a lot of other things you need to consider. But I think personally that if you do take the time to consider these things, then the benefits you'll get from it will make it a success, and it will be worth it. And that's it. I'll leave you there.
Thanks, David. Just to kind of wrap up some of the things we've seen today, and I wanted to pick up on a number of key themes. And fortunately, I wrote these themes before I saw the guys' presentations yesterday, and it's always nice that what I was hoping to see is consistent with what I did see. So I just wanted to touch on some of these key themes, and something that's come out a lot is understanding processes. What happens in your business, and how does that link to putting in a WMS, automation, a new racking system? I think I've stressed the data, and more data piece enough so you understand that. But think about the amount of planning that needs to go into that, and alongside that with the investing the required time. Involve the wider business. Who are the stakeholders? It's not just the warehouse operation. It's purchasing, it's sales, it's finance. They're going to sign off on that investment. You need to go to market and understand what the options are. Who are the suppliers? Speak to people. There's a lot of guys here today who are experts in their field. There's more outside. Go and talk to them. They'll be able to give you that insight. And finally, when it comes down to it, you've got to put your customer at the center of any of these investment decisions. You've got to ensure that your proposition meets their demands.